New explosive details keep coming to light that you were never supposed to know. This government dispute is now completely getting out of hand. And the federal press conference that took place yesterday was unsurpassed in terms of embarrassment and disastrous behavior. They complain because they have to work 20 minutes longer during a crisis. And then he even goes so far as to say, if you don't like my answers, that's just too bad for you. I still won't tell you what we think and how this country responds to crisis situations. All of this happened on Saturday morning, and we're just getting started.
No comment. We've agreed to remain silent. With these words, the crisis meeting at the Ministry of Finance ended. No comment.
If you want to support this channel, I would be really happy if you gave it a like and subscribed. And what happened yesterday, I'll summarize it again very briefly. Lars Klingbeil did his own thing and invited Katharina Reiche. Katharina Reiche politely declined, and for those who missed it, gave the minister a brilliant rejection live on camera. But what came out of it yesterday goes beyond all limits. Among other things, it was demanded that high earners, as reported by Bild Zeitung this morning, should now be checked by the tax office once a year. As a result, some people absolutely lost it and said, we need to get rid of the civil servants here in Germany. They cost way too much money. We should be a bit more like Millet. And then yesterday, the Debt Brake Reform Commission said that all reforms will probably be cancelled for this year. It's too close to the elections and the debt brake cannot be further relaxed. You have to make sure that you somehow make the budget work with the money you have or don't have. And then yesterday, the next association came along and said, look, we have a huge chip shortage here in Germany. We have a huge economic problem.
And with such sharp words that Chancellor Merz publicly reprimands his own minister.
And the CDU social wing, they're completely beside themselves. Hold on tight because this dispute has been made public. The citizens aren't supposed to see before the next elections how divided they actually are. Now that all the commissions have said the debt brake will remain, constitutional law must be upheld. Otherwise, the citizens will lose their patience. That's how it should be. Klingbeil somehow has to figure out not just how to raise 20 million, but now how to raise 40 million because the debts aren't for the budget. And then yesterday there was an absolute disaster for this government at the federal press conference. Let's listen in for a moment.
We gave an answer. You are not satisfied with the answer. That's your right.
But because of that, we can't give any other answer than the one we've already given.
When asked about the current situation in these crises, how we are being protected, and especially how the federal government is positioning itself, that was the response. And when asked further, and you really have to listen to this, they even went so far, I would say, Arbeitsverweigerung, almost to the point of refusing to work. They actually went after the reporters, I really have to say it like that, instead of maybe reflecting on themselves, whether they might have done something wrong.
So you're sitting here at the Federal Press Conference to answer further questions from us about previous statements.
Could you add the question as well?
So why are you sitting here and not answering these questions or refusing to answer them further? I don't quite understand that.
Because then he would have had to explain to us that this government is in its deepest conflict, in crisis, in the biggest coalition crisis, because they no longer know what to do. People have had it up to here, they're fed up. That's exactly what he can't say. And last but not least, to top it all off with the cherry on top. Their own commissions are tearing this government apart right now, and because they simply can't get anything done. And they're already demanding that the coalition agreement be dissolved because it can no longer be upheld. They are demanding that citizens be relieved immediately, bureaucracy be reduced, NGOs be scaled back right away, and massive savings be made. But the SPD will never go along with that, because then they would lose their sharpest weapon of democracy against the civilian population. And they made it very clear and said, no, we're not hitting the emergency brake. We're going to make things even worse for you.
I don't share your assessment there either. In my opinion, I've been refusing to answer for 50 minutes, and if I may add, we already sat here for an hour and 20 minutes on Wednesday.
Yes, you know that this isn't an official limitation.
You really have to take that in. You really have to take that in and think about it. I already sat here for an hour and 20 minutes yesterday. Actually, I only wanted to come once a week. That should be enough to tell you that I won't tell you anything. And now I'm standing here for 50 minutes and telling you nothing. That was actually the entire context of the whole press conference. I'm trying to wriggle out of this for 50 minutes like an asshole. So you don't realize what's actually going on, and reporters keep asking me what's happening in this country right now. Figure out what's wrong, dear government. Don't you think it's time to pack your bags and leave and let people who actually know what they're doing take over?
Or rather, that's what I was able to gather beforehand. We are dealing with a
Exogenous supply shock.
And all you have in your toolkit to fight this are demand-side solutions like mobility restrictions or a flexible price cap. I'm not a fan of price caps anyway. I'm curious when we'll get a bread price cap. We already have rent caps, we have minimum wage, so the state is interfering with price mechanisms everywhere. I'm not happy with these summits when they go that way.
Instead of actually going ahead and saying, hey, let's leave the market alone, let's pull out of everything, we look at where our core competencies are keeping this country running, and we just lower taxes for once. Radical, across the board, the whole spectrum, then you would really see relief. You could start right away with the value-added tax. That would really affect everyone equally. Yes, I really have to say it that way. To pay for that, getting rid of climate ideological projects would be enough. That would be my way of financing it, for example. Aid abroad and the development aid we have would be completely sufficient to simply set the value-added tax to zero. That would be fully paid for. And what do you think would happen out there? People would invest. People would run outside, they would cheer. And yes, the unemployment rate would also drop drastically, just if those 19% were simply gone. But that's just utopia. No, you're not allowed to demand that at all, because otherwise you're considered a right-wing radical.
For me, the right way would be to lower the energy tax. And we must not forget all the measures that the government supposedly initiates are paid for by all of us, the taxpayers. And that's why a reduction in the energy tax would also be, in my opinion, the logical consequence, the logical measure.
Yes, everyone in Germany is talking about how we need tax relief. Only the SPD is talking about tax increases, a tax on the rich. They've brought it up again now. And I don't mean Katharina Reiche getting an extra tax now, but that the wealthy are now being asked to pay more. That we absolutely need an excess profits tax now, Guns. I mean, hey, let's be honest. What exactly is an excess profit anyway? Last year or the last 5 years, you made 10 billion. If you make 11 billion now, then you have to pay taxes on that extra 1 billion. So how can you imagine something like that? And the next point is, let's be honest, the only one who should really be paying an excess profits tax here is actually the German state, because they're the ones who keep lining their own pockets and just let the money disappear into all sorts of channels that Germans have nowadays. Not even willing to pay anymore, or am I seeing this all wrong? I'm really sorry that this video came out so late, but something was up with my microphone this morning. You noticed it right at the beginning. It kept crackling like a record player that's somehow still playing. Sorry again. But that also means that the other video and possibly the evening video, although I don't think I'll upload that separately, will all be delayed today. So the next video will be out this afternoon.